Hey, I'm aestheno, and today I want to show you how I made my new track, California. Okay, so before we actually have a look at the file, I just want to tell you a little bit about the songwriting process, because with almost all of my songs, I start off at the piano and decide what I actually want to make a song about before I start playing around in my DAW. Originally, I planned to vlog this process, so I actually have a couple clips of me back at the beginning of this process talking about what it was I wanted to do. So we're going to be going D minor, second inversion of an A major, F major, G major. I'm also going to be writing in 12/8. If you watched my video I did about Letter to the Stars, I said that I really want to write in 12/8. So it should sound something like this. So because I want this to be like not a depresso song, I feel like the melody, like the singing melody, needs to start on probably a major chord. And when you're working in a minor key, the major chords are your third, your sixth, and your seventh. So in D minor, your third is F, your sixth is B, or in this case B flat, and your seventh is C. Now I don't really want to start on C, I don't think, because I'm switching between these two. So I feel like either F or B flat is my go-to here. I wrote like a sample melody yesterday, and I actually don't hate it. It would be like da, 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 So I knew I wanted to use this passing 6/4 chord sequence. I knew I wanted to write in 12/8, and I kind of had this idea going of what the vocal melody was going to sound like, so I needed to start building it. So let's have a look at that. I'm opening the file now, and this file is huge. I think it's the biggest file I have. Okay, so here is the file for California. So this is just going to give you a bit of an idea of how fucking big this thing is. I gotta even think about how I'm gonna talk about this now. So the first thing that I started with was, originally I actually recorded it on a ukulele, and then I got a friend of mine to re-record it on a guitar, but we have this kind of sound. Now I want to point out, because there will be some more astute people watching this potentially who are going to be like, that's not a passing 6/4 chord. That's because the verse doesn't actually use that. So that doesn't actually kick in until a little bit later. Now, I built this kind of around this sort of ARP sound, which at this point is very filtered, but you hear this throughout the entirety of the song. So I think I built this from a preset, and then I just kind of changed a few things in it. And then with this verse, as is classic for me, I love using any kind of classical string sounds, whether that's violins, cellos. I mean, for me, cellos are just one of the most awesome sounding instruments in the world. And so I had to kind of bring that in for this sort of bass sound in this part of the verse. So it's just a very simple, this follows the chord sequence of the verse. But I just feel like it adds such an element of like epicness. I don't know what it is. There's something about a cello running under a bass that just makes things feel very like big. I don't even know what this is. I don't remember this. This is a silent string, I guess. I don't know. What does this even sound like? Oh yeah, I can hear it. I totally forgot that I put that in. Before I look at the vocals real quick, I just want to talk about this. So this sound effect is from Contact. And this was a sound effect that was just called like LA Ambiance or something like that. And I was like, well, holy shit, my song is about California. Of course I want to put in the LA Ambiance. And I don't have it running the whole way through the song. I have it in that just little parts underneath the verses at times. But you can hear it the most in the intro. Just kind of under the guitar, and I just feel like it adds some texture. Now for the vocals. God, my least favorite part.
Sun's in my eyes.
What is my vocal chain? So I probably have a couple buses. Oh, I actually have a lot of different vocals in the mixer. Any of these purple mixer tracks are all vocals. Because I have so many different layers of vocals in this track, and a lot of them have different panning, and so I'll have like 6 vocals on top of each other, all with different stereo shaping, different panning. I just have a billion different vocal things. So this one was the original one, and we have an EQ. So this is kind of my standard EQ that I do for vocals. Interestingly, the song I'm working on right now has very different EQing, which has been kind of interesting to work with. But in this case, this is sort of standard for me. I just cut out the lows. I reduced this sort of 300-ish resonant area, and I just kind of like boost around 3K. And then I have some reverb, which you can hear. This is just the stock reverb plugin. I usually like to use Valhalla Supermassive, and I do have some Valhalla Supermassive on here, but I feel like the fruity reverb has a very different sound, so sometimes combining those minimally can give a good effect. I guess I added Maximus to put some compression in, which is interesting because I think my limiter is the main compressor that I've used at the end here. Again, in the song that I'm currently working on, I've actually ditched any of the stock compressors for my vocals and bought a new one. So this is kind of like wild. This plugin I really like. It's called Proximity, and it's basically it ultimately just changes kind of like the gain of the vocals, but the whole point is that it's meant to kind of change the sound of the distance from the microphone. And I usually sing quite close to the microphone, and I find sometimes it can sound a little too close, so I like playing back with that at times. The Fruity Delay 3, again, there's just so many stock plugins on these, but that's where my delay is from. I have a second EQ, which is just slightly boosting. I think that's about 5K. Yeah, 5K. Just to add some sparkle. Again, I've added the VST Fresh Air to my plugins list now, which is much better for that, in my opinion. I have no idea what's going on in the multiband compressor because I really hate this plugin. So it's very interesting to me that I have that in there, and I don't remember what I did with it. What did I do with it? So interestingly with this, I think I tried to handle all of the volume differences with the compression. Oh no, I actually have other automation here. But even then, it's not like specific gain automation for word by word. So there are little bits in this song where I kind of wish I'd gone in a little bit and automated the gain a bit more specifically, but whatever, hindsight's 2020, right? And then I have these really cute little, so I didn't want to like overdo the vocals for this verse because I quite like single track vocals to sort of have that feeling of simplicity and not wanting to overdo it, but having these sort of more like washed out backing vocals, and these get automated, so that's really quiet. And then the same with these backing vocals, which I actually really like these because I love this Valhalla Supermassive automation that I have at the end here. When she closed her eyes, I love that effect so much. I remember when I put that in, I thought it sounded so freaking cool. He closed her eyes, California. I just love that kind of like continuation without it being too in your face. I haven't even been producing vocals or mixing vocals for a year at this point. And so this was really, I had to put in a lot of work to try and make something that was vaguely listenable. So then our next portion of the song, which is this kind of, I've labeled it as a chorus, but I don't know if a chorus is the right word for it, given the fact that it's more like a bridge to a drop. But we have this. So as you can see, I have a lot of different vocal layers. This is also when the chord sequence changes to the actual one that's going to be playing in the drop. And then we have the cello in here as well. And the guitar. And then whatever this... Oh, this is the violins. Okay, so yeah, it sounds a little more orchestral in this part too. And then I add this sort of pulsating bass line to the second part of this. So it kind of has like that riser feeling without there being actually a riser in the song. Because the way that I like produce music isn't really commercial dance music. I oftentimes think it's a little misplaced to put like a straight up riser in. I don't think it would sound right. So I try to find alternative ways of sort of giving that effect without like actively having a freaking like snares going and like, you know, like a rising drone. I don't need that shit. So then of course, all these vocals. So we have, this is kind of like mixed like the main vocals. I really could have put some more work into just evening out the gain, but again, we live and we learn. So this one just plays out the right, or is panned to the right, okay? And then we have a left one, which also goes on to this track as well. I'm just really unorganized with how I do any of this. Then we have a lower harmony on the right. And instead of a low harmony on the left, we have a high harmony on the left because I didn't want to layer it too much. I didn't want like normal left and right, low left and right, high left and right, because that becomes a little bit overwhelming. And I think also adding some imbalance just adds to the dynamics. This was hard for me to sing. So I'm an alto, my vocal range is an alto. So whenever I have to do these really high harmonies, like I did a couple in the Letter to the Stars EP, they are hard and they're also not usually the best quality of projection, which fortunately vocal processing means I can kind of hide that, especially as this is just backing vocals. But you can hear I struggled. I struggle with that one. But it's whatever, you know. Oh, so this, I actually think this harmony made this part because it's not the same as the rest of it and it just really adds something. I don't know. That adds tension, I think, like that final note there. I really, really liked that. So then, of course, we get into the drop, which is the really... well, there's a lot going on, so I guess let's talk about it. There were a lot of times where I changed this drop. I think originally, the first drop that I made had the ARP running the whole way through, and it just had a few bass bits here and there. And to me, I remember thinking, like, it doesn't sound like it has much movement. It's not super dynamic. There's not a lot going on. It's kind of just like... okay, cool. And so I ended up kind of going back and after I had done the entire first verse, I was like, I'm going to rework this drop. So obviously just for the build up, I just kind of have... Okay. It sounds so weird listening to the unmastered version of this. So let's talk about the main sounds that are going on here. So obviously the ARP kind of cuts in and out, but it's going on. So in terms of the bass sounds, we have this. So this is our sub. We have, we have this. So this is a very distorted saw that I made in Massive. Oh, I guess, okay, so I guess this is an original preset that it came with, and I will have changed a number of things about it. There is no way this is what it actually sounds like. This is what my EQ looks like for this. So again, I didn't actually cut the lows as much as you should do for something like this, which was a decision. I think I played about with it, and because my original idea for how this bass was going to sound is I really wanted it to really hit, and the way that I had kind of done, altered things in the sound design, it sounded kind of dumb when I took too much of the bass out. It wasn't designed to sound like that, so I kind of tried to find this middle ground where I was still cutting at about, what is this, like 30k, 40k? What is it? 36. Not 30k, 30 hertz. 30k hertz would be like up here somewhere. So that was kind of the middle ground that I found. And then, yeah, I wanted to take out a lot of the sort of like high end because there's other things going on above it. So I do use gross beat for sidechaining to an extent. I do actual sidechaining with a limiter, but I like to use gross beat as a kind of artificial sidechain at times if I want to directly design the feeling of the kind of like thumping that comes into this. So how, putting the kind of like bass bit here, this makes it quite subtle, and also having this sort of shape on the Bezier curve, right, rather than linear or a concave one. It makes it subtle, but it adds enough of an effect that you can feel it. Again, Maximus for a little bit of compression. Oh, I put a sound goodizer on it, actually. I don't use sound goodizers very often, but I guess I was playing with that. And then this was how I saturated it. So it's one thing that actually annoys me a little bit about FL Studio is that as far as stock saturators go, like the wave shaper is kind of the only thing. And then this. So I have some strings that follow the bass. And then we have this. Again, this was in Massive X. And this is just kind of like for sort of texturing, sound design. You don't really notice that as part of the drop. You do notice this one. That's kind of the high end of the bass. So then this. So I have this really low cello that's kind of running. So originally I actually had a sub bass that followed this, and I remember when I got into mastering and I was listening to it and it just sounded like too much. I was like, it sounds like there's a bassy rumble that's going on. I don't like it. And instead of taking out the cello, I took out the sub bass because the sub bass just needed to be there. The cello was kind of like, has a little bit of flavor. I'm not going to say I made this one if I don't know that I made it or not. Oh, okay, I will have, because I called this Overwork Winter Bass. It kind of has this sort of hollowish feel to it. And then we've got like the vocals. So interestingly, the vocals that you're hearing in the chorus, or in the drop, I should say. So, like including this. These are the original demo vocals. I never replaced them. I think it's this sound. Oh, yeah. So this is just the wobble. So it's a fairly simple, I think it's a fairly simple, just kind of like wobble bass. And then this is also in Vital. So this is also Dirty Wub. This just doesn't have the wobble on it. So it took me a while to decide how I wanted to build the second verse. And this is something that I've had in a number of my songs. I remember really having this really badly when I was writing Letter to the Stars, is that I get this idea for the first verse and it's going to be whatever. And then I build the drop, I build the first verse, everything's great. And then I'm like, well, fuck. What do I want for a second verse? So what I ended up doing was using... I got my friend to record the same chord progression at the start, but like with more of a strummy kind of vibe. And I added this growing delay on it. So that's what this automation here is. So when it gets to this point, you have like a delay. I added these kind of drums, percussion in here. This is one of the last things that I mixed, actually. I just kind of put them in there as placeholders at the start. And I grew so used to them being in the song that I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll use these, but now I gotta mix them. And one thing I will say, so they kind of pan around a little. I hate doing anything with percussion. I am not a percussionist. I'm not a groove person. I like sound design, I like songwriting, I like mixing, but I just hate working with percussion. So I'm not really somebody who's ever gonna have super flamboyant percussion in my songs. I just kind of wanted these sort of like different sounds to just keep this bit going. So interestingly, where I have this bit coming through, actually doesn't align with where I have it coming through here. So I have this starting directly at the halfway point in the verse on the first one. And on this one, I have it starting like in the middle of a measure, like after bar 5 of this second verse. And I just kind of thought it sounded like it fit here. So I had these little like harmonies. They're so delayed that it's really hard to hear where they start, right? So these are so delayed, but I feel like because like, you know, the melody for this verse is a little different, it kind of like added to it a little, I think. And we just have this sub bass, which kind of comes in every couple bars. You can tell I love these big saws under things. I wanted this kind of like adding to it as we have this like vocal part. I didn't want it to sound exactly the same as the choral bit from previously. So I added this kick in, just this one. You hear there's like a bit of reverb on there. And then, so this bass is the same one that's used in the drop, but I mixed it differently so that there's like reverb, it's a little more washed out. And this is one of those things where I picked because as a stylistic choice because I like it, but I was like, this could just be something that people hate. But that's fine. And then we get to drop number 2, which is a bit different. So there's a lot more going on in this drop. I wanted it to sound a little faster. I didn't want it to be just a repeat of the first drop. This is just the same. These are the same basses as before, but I cut it in half and add this. Oh no, wait, hold on. I add this. Is it this? So this was made in Zeta 2. So then this bit, I really, really like this bit. This was one of those things where like originally I didn't know how I wanted to do it. And then when I did what I did with it, I was like, oh, this sounds cool. So this is what it is. And I was like, that doesn't sound right. That's kind of too slow and legato. So I just basically cut it up. I love this sound. This is like just some... I'm pretty sure this sample's been used in so much music before. I just cut like a little bit out of that. And then, yeah, I have this. This was one bit that I was unsure about. So I just kind of made this sort of like sliding pitch up thing. Okay, I called it Saw Guy. You can always tell when I made it if it has a really stupid name. I just have this switcher LFO attached to the pitch. And I have it kind of panning across, so it almost sounds like a car, like it's got that Doppler effect kind of vibe, like it's like, wow. And when I first put it in, I was like, this doesn't like fully fit in. It's not like sticking to the beat or anything. Then I was like, fuck it, who cares? I think it sounds cool. So then we get this bridge. I do like this. So I have like, again, that same saw that was underneath the choral part going up underneath this. But I have this like glitch, this D-Blue glitch automation that's going on, so it kind of gets glitchier as it goes. It just adds a little bit of character. So actually this bit, this little ARP thing, so this is in the chord, you know, the passing 6/4 chord sequence. Originally, I was thinking of just coming out of the drop with that and kind of continuing, not the drop, but continuing sort of like the kick and whatever. And I loved it. I thought it sounded so cool, but I thought it really reduced the emphasis of the drop. It sounded too much like a main character to be kind of put in just for the just for a bridge, in my opinion. I was like, this sounds too much like a lead. So I ended up just using one measure of it. And I just have it kind of filtering up. And then this fake drop. So yeah, I was kind of like, okay, it is basically the same sense as the original drop. It's got everything going on. And then I just kind of add this bit, which again is just a sample that comes with the program. And of course, coming in with the ARP. And then this last drop is just exactly the same as the first one. And then that's the song. And it took me 4 months. I've gone through the process of loving this song and hating this song and loving and hating it again. I'm mostly just glad it's over, and I learned a lot from making this song. But also, it was really exciting to make a song that kind of told a story that I wanted to tell. One thing that's really frustrating about making a song like this is that it's very uncommercial, so it's quite hard to market to people, I think. But I don't think that's necessarily a reason to not make music like this. And again, it's something that I can really learn from, and I would love to hear it on monitors that are bigger than my little boys that I have here. So that is my tour of how I made California. That is the first release of 2023. I really hope you guys are enjoying it, or at least that you found this interesting. I am working on new music already, and it's music I'm really, really excited about. So I'm happy to kind of have put this out into the world, and I can put it behind me now and keep moving forward. And I just really hope that you guys like it. Let me know if you'd like more content like this, where I show you my process of making music and what I've been doing for all of these months. And I will happily do some more of this in the future, because I love talking about this stuff. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching. Go stream California, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.